Welcome to Candid Dialogues with Plummer and Lorraine Baylor. Each week, we'll bring you wholesome and engaging conversations about things that matter to you and things that matter to us. We address life topics ranging from relationships to business and our personal favorite, spiritual things. Now, here are your hosts, Plummer and Lorraine.
Welcome to Candid Dialogues with Plummer and Lorraine. In this show, we talk about things that matter to you and things that matter to us. I'm Plummer, and this is Lorraine.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate all your feedback, all your questions, all of your contributions that brought us to this point where we are and what we're going to be doing right now.
Yeah, it's happening. It's actually happening. I love it. I love the sound of Candid Dialogues with Plummer and Lorraine.
You did.
I really do.
Good.
I love the sound of that. Anyhow, hey, we have a great show for you guys here today. Thank you so much again for tuning in. In today's episode, what are we going to be talking about?
Effective communication in relationship. When we did the poll, that was the top feed, and we just went with just what you requested.
So that's what we're going to talk about. Let's jump into it. Actually, before we do that, I want to kind of introduce ourselves to folks, because I know quite a few of the people who are watching right now are people that we know. But we're anticipating that you've invited people like we've asked you to do who don't know us. So just a brief background about us.
You go ahead.
No, you go ahead first.
Okay, so Plummer and I, we've been married come this December. It'll be 20 years of marriage. And over the years, we've learned a few things about what is ineffective in terms of communicating with one another and what is effective. We're also bivocational pastors, so we have, over the span of those 20 years, we have counseled many couples and individuals on various different topics, communication being one of them. And we've learned some things along the way. And I think that what we've learned and what we've had to institute is going to be very helpful for you. I believe we told you before that we're no experts.
That's right. We're not experts. Our background is not professional counseling, but as pastors, we do have training in counseling people in effective communication. And over the years, we've learned a few things. My background is actually construction engineering and physics, and then I did graduate work in organizational management. And Lorraine,
her understudies is biblical studies, and my master's is in an MBA, Masters of Business Administration.
Right. So, but again, along the way, we've learned a few things. Our backgrounds are different. This is a real setup. It's a real setup for learning how to communicate effectively, right? Because our backgrounds are really as different as could be. Lorraine is from the island. She's from Barbados, and has spent quite a, well, you say that. Most
of my life have been here in the U.S., but culturally speaking, I am a Caribbean. Most of my mannerism, everything that you'll learn about me along the way I think is pretty much kind of woven into my culture, as in, Caribbean culture, as well as the American culture, because I've been here for so long.
Right. And I am from Sierra Leone, born and raised, lived in Sierra Leone, 25 years before I came to America. I've lived in America longer. I've lived in Sierra Leone now, though. I've been here for 31 years. It'll be 32 years, honey, come January next year. 32 years.
I'm not going to tell you how.
But anyhow, so that's just a little bit about us. But let's jump into it. Let's jump into this. So we're going to talk about effective communication in relationships. That word effective. Effective means to be successful in producing a desired or intended result. When I think of that, if we're going to communicate effectively to produce a desired or intended result, it means that if I'm going to be effective, I need to have a goal, right? I need to have a desired result. I need to have a desired end. One of the a book that has really impacted, I know, my approach is a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. One of the habits he mentioned, he said, begin with the end in mind. So when we talk about effective communication, you want to start with what is the end? What end do you have in mind? What is the desired result you have, even as you communicate, as you dialogue with someone?
He also, I love, and I'm going to be paraphrasing what he says in that book. Instead of seeking first to be understood, we seek first to understand rather than seek first to be understood. And I think if we start from that foundational part where we're trying or attempting to understand the other person that's in that conversation, we have a really good foundation to start with.
Right. So he says, seek first to understand rather than seek first to be understood. Now, so let's make it practical, right? Let's talk about you and I, how, because again, we both come from completely different backgrounds. Yes. I'm just gonna say it. People say, well, she's from the Caribbean, you from Africa. There's a lot of, cultural. Fine, there is, but we are two different people. Two different people. And when we met, one of the things we had to come to some kind of agreement first, and there's a scripture that you like to talk about in Amos.
Amos 3:3.
Right.
Amos chapter 3 verse 3. Again, we told you we're going to be coming from a biblical perspective in a lot of this. Amos 3:3 said, "How can two walk together except they agree?" And the whole concept of that is that when I think about it, and I think you have a different vision than me, but it all correlates, is if we're going down South Street and we see that there's, N Street, F Street, okay? And I want to go South Street and you want to go which one of those other streets.
Right.
There's no way that we're going to be walking together unless we agree which street we're going down. And it's the same way, I think, in terms of a conversation, to be effective, there has to be some groundwork, foundational things that are set.
Right. And when you gave that illustration, the picture came to mind. A friend of mine had shared this a while ago. He said it's like getting in an elevator. Two people going in an elevator. You're either going up or you're going down, but you're going together. One person can't be going up and the other going down. Everyone go up together at one point and then everyone come down. Or another illustration that comes to mind is like the three-legged race.
Oh, yeah.
Right, the three-legged race. The people who win the three-legged race have some kind of strategy.
Yeah, they're in unison.
They are in unison. They are united. So again, one of the things, if you're going to have effective communication in relationships, whoever that relationship is with, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a child, whether it's a coworker, it's a friend, it's a significant other, there has to be a starting point. And for us, we call it non-negotiables. We talked about non-negotiables. And a non-negotiable is just that. It's a non-negotiable. It's something that, I'm just going to leave it that way. It's a non-negotiable. So, honey, what are my non-negotiables?
His non-negotiable, in terms of our communication, his non-negotiable is one, respect, and the second one is don't walk away. Okay,
and yours too. For you as well. Respect is a big thing for you, and then don't lie.
Don't lie.
Don't lie. I mean, that's a non-negotiable. If she detects a lie, that conversation is, and I gotta say, she's very perceptive. So I have learned this real quickly. I talk about my wife a lot. Some of you may know that I own my own training and coaching business, and I'm always talking about her. And, I don't lie to my wife. And when I say this, sometimes people come to me during the break and say, really, you don't like to lie? No, I don't, because that I know if I'm going to be effective in communicating with her if I'm going to meet my end goal, which is living in harmony with her. And again, we're talking as spouses here, but this has to do with anyone that you're in a relationship with. Again, it doesn't have to be a love relationship. You got to know their non-negotiables. And I know what sets her off is, if I were even try to deceive her a little bit. So, yeah.
And I believe that everyone has their non-negotiable, whether it's spoken or unspoken. And the reaction you get from that person often tells you that you have crossed that line where their non-negotiable is.
Ooh, you just said something. The reaction you get from that person, which means, folks, if you're going to be communicating effectively, you got to be in tune. You got to have what I call situational awareness. Because people will speak, people will tell you things, maybe not verbally, but their body language will say it. Their facial expressions will say it. But if you're on autopilot, if you don't have situational awareness, you don't pick it up.
Exactly.
So, I mean, this is one of those things that if you're going to be an effective communicator in your relationships, you cannot be an autopilot. You've got to try to be in tune to, again, seek first to understand rather than to be understood. Now, we mentioned something. We said both of us have respect as a non-negotiable.
Oh, yeah.
There is the possibility, because people are different, that what might be respect for you is not respect for me. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, let's, in terms of us and our non-negotiable and what respect looks like for me. Respect for me means no name calling. It means, and truth is a part of that.
Right.
It means that when it gets to be the conversation get really heated or exciting, there's no yelling.
No talking over the other person.
No talking. And the other thing is that, there's a scripture that says, let no unwholesome words come out of your mouth.
Right. That's in Ephesians. Let me see here. Ephesians 4:29.
Yeah. It said, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building up others according to their needs.
Right. Ooh. Seek first to understand, right? It is about them. It is not about you.
Yeah.
According to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Because other people are listening too. Anyway.
So with respect for me, the words you say, how you say it, and that, what you say, how you say it, and those boundaries are those non-negotiables that are there, unspoken, that we've.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So those things that especially if I've already mentioned it to you, especially if we've had a discussion, you didn't know, and I say such and such. For me, that respect has kind of diminished when I've expressed to you that this, and you do that.
Right. And I know also when you're not given equal opportunity to speak, you feel like you're being disrespected. And it took me a while to figure that out because I can get very passionate about what I believe in, right? And so for me, I grew up in a home where, again, we're talking about nurture, culture. I grew up in a home where I was expected to speak up. My parents.
Debatable.
Yeah. My parents expected me to speak up. They would push you and push you and push you to speak up. So that's how I have approached a lot of things. But her, on the other hand, she does not like that. And so
my family is a little bit more quiet. They'll express themselves, but, the volume doesn't go up. My experience was totally different from him.
Right.
And really, if they didn't like something, and this might not be a good thing, but you can tell from their facial expression, but they wouldn't be disrespectful, name call, things like that.
Right. And so for her, that's what respect means for her. I did not know this. It was only when we sat down and we talked about it, and she had to, because for me, respect for me was, hey, listen, if we're having this conversation, let's talk about it. Let's go at it. I don't take things personal. You can say things to me. You can be brutally honest with me. You can even throw in a little bit of a name there. It's no big deal, right? But for me, if you shut down and walk away, I interpret that as if you're not respecting me, which was her mode of operation. Once I started getting real passionate, and for me it was no big deal because 2 seconds later I'm fine. I'm done with that. Let's move on, right? But that for her was, so she would shut down, either not say anything or walk away. That's how she dealt with it. I saw that as being very disrespectful. And so it would flare things, and we were not being effective in our communication. We were not being...
I go to my happy place.
Right,
I sit there and I'm at the beach. I'm meditating on the waves. I can feel the wind in the palm tree. I was gone.
Right.
But we learned that it wasn't effective because it didn't nurture our relationship.
That's right, because so we were not reaching our goal, which, and our goal in our relationship, again, we're talking about, husband and wife, but it doesn't matter what relationship, even with our children, our goal is to glorify God in our relationship. One of the things I pray every morning when we pray together, when I'm praying, there's a line that I say there, God, that the words we speak, the thoughts we have, that they would bring glory to you. It is a desire of ours. And that just, it's part of our values. And so if we're good, so that's our goal. So for us, being respectful is a big thing. Again, you've got to be able to define what respect looks like for you. Going back to seek first to understand rather than seeking first
to be understood.
Because
the bottom line is we all want to be understood. We know that. Right. We all want our viewpoints to be valued. We all want that. But I think that when we really begin to care for someone else and care about their feelings and have some empathy for them, we realize that it can't be all about what we as an individual or me as an individual want.
Right. It has to be, I have to think about the other person. The guy's name is Dr. Tony Alexandra, has a resource called New Relationship Strategies. And he talks about the golden rule and the platinum rule. Well, we all know the golden rule, right? And the golden rule is what?
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And he says the golden rule is great. It's great for values. It's great for it's great for ethics. It's great for loyalty. But he says sometimes the golden rule falls short. Well, as a Bible person, when I heard that, I almost tuned him out. How does the golden rule fall short? But let me give you an example. So again, let's talk about me. I'm very passionate, very expressive when I talk, and especially if it's someone that I know and I'm comfortable with. Because she would always say, "Why? Yes, you're passionate, but how come when you're talking to other people your voice doesn't go up?" And in my heart, I say, "Well, that's because it's you, right?" But that's not respecting her, right? So let's say in my moment of passion, my voice goes up. I'm not angry, I'm not mad, but I'm doing to her as I would have her do to me. Golden rule, because if she speaks passionately like that and raises her voice and waves her hands and does all of that, right? That's fine with me. That's the golden rule. But in this instance, is the golden rule working for her? Is it working for you? It's not working for her, right? So that's when the golden rule falls short. So he came up with, Dr. Tony Alexandra came up with what he calls the platinum rule. The platinum rule says, do unto others as they would have you do unto them.
Yes.
Which means that I've got to...
powerful.
Yes.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, which means I've got to consider you.
Yes.
If you don't want me to raise my voice, right, and you've told me when I raise my voice, you perceive that I'm being disrespectful, so I got to do unto you as you want to be done unto you. Yes. Yeah. Just in case you're just tuning in, folks, you're listening to Candid Dialogues with Plummer and Lorraine. Yeah, I almost forgot to say that, right? Well, we got to say it so folks know. If you weren't here with us in the beginning, we are Candid Dialogues with Plummer Lorraine. Yeah. So the platinum rule. So we talked about the golden rule, talked about the platinum rule, some of the things that help us to be effective. Seek first to understand.
Rather than seek first to be understood.
Right? So what else? What else can we talk about here? So let me talk about that. Let's talk about this. How do people begin to embrace this principle? Seek first, or these principles, seek first to understand rather than seeking first to be understood, or taking the golden rule and the platinum rule, not throwing the golden rule away, because golden rule is essential. It's biblical, right? But how do people begin to embrace these principles? What is the mindset that is, because it does require a certain mindset. Like I said, we all come from different backgrounds and things like that. And probably in the next episode, we're going to be looking at personalities and how that, because we all have different personalities, nurture, nature, and all that stuff. We'll be talking about that. But what is the mindset that people should have? Or what is that mindset that helps them to be able to begin to embrace seek first to understand rather than seek to be understood, and all those other things that we've just talked about?
Well, I believe that you have to be intentional about reinvesting compassion, love into that relationship. Anything that you value, you're going to nurture. I'll give you an example.
I love that. Say it again.
Anything that you value, you're going to nurture it. Now, I got this example. I have this example here. This is a tea set. And I've had this for many years.
Actually, you've had it even before we met.
Yes, I did. And over the years, we have moved from three different states. We've lived in three different.
We've lived in Maryland. We've lived in Michigan, and now we live. Yes.
But we have moved a few times. With that being said, I've had to wrap these up. I've had to take care of these. One of the things about China is that you have to be very intentional with everything you do. When you use it, when you wash it, you don't just throw it in the dishwasher. You wash it. For me, I'll wash it by hand. I'll set it aside. I don't want anybody else to put it away. I'll put it away.
Like, don't touch it. Don't put it away. I got it.
I don't need your help. I mean, because I know that to replace this is more expensive than to replace my dollar store mug.
Ooh.
I'll throw this in the dishwasher in a minute.
You had to tell them it's from the dollar store?
Yeah,
that's all right.
There's little value I have on that. But this, I nurture it. When we move, I pack it a certain way. When I unpack it, when I mark it as fragile. Because it is fragile. So I mark it as fragile. If anybody is putting it in the truck, I make sure they know that one right there, you be careful with that because it has value to me.
Handle with care.
You got to handle with care. And with the relationship, it's the same way. If you want to have some effective communication, you have to handle that other person with care and compassion.
I love it. Anything you value, you will nurture. I love that principle. Anything you value, you will nurture. And that's just a great question that we need to ask ourselves. There's a scripture that in 1 Peter 3:7. I love that scripture, and it's been often misinterpreted, but I think it applies here. It says, husbands. So, again, it's speaking to husbands in this case. It says, but I think it's a two-way street. But it says, husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives. Number one, be considerate, right?
Yeah.
Treat them with respect. Right?
Respect.
Right? It says, treat them with respect as the weaker partner, as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Now, the part where a lot of people get tied up is when it says as the weaker partner. But I don't, and they look at weak as in, well, you're weak, maybe, you're not strong emotionally, you cry a lot and that kind of stuff. But I think the example that Lorraine gave with the teacup here, it speaks to that. Weaker, not necessarily weak, but treat it with care is what it's saying. Treat it with care. Treat your partner, in this case we're talking about spouses, but this could apply to anyone else. Treat whoever you're dealing with care, with compassion, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that this can apply to any relationship. I'll tell you, I was talking, quite often, I'm in a conversation with our youngest daughter. And, I start talking to her about something, and all of a sudden she's like, "Why are you yelling at me?" And I'm like, "Me?"
Yeah. The one who doesn't lie. I think I rubbed off on her.
I said, "Me? Yelling at you?" But then I realized when I thought about it, I said, it's not the volume of my voice that she was really referring to. It was the fact that my tone switched. And I mean, after she said it about 2 or 3 times, I'm like, okay, I get it. It took a while for it to click. So where she interpreted the tone of my voice as yelling, then I had to really begin to concentrate on how I was saying certain things. Even if it wasn't yelling, the volume wasn't high, my tone of voice was projecting a certain reaction from her that I didn't like.
So you're talking about the platinum rule here, right? You want to treat her the way she wanted to be treated.
Correct.
But something else you mentioned here, you talked about your tone of voice. So I got to throw this in there. I know she's like, really? But so many years ago, a study was done. The guy's name is Marabian, did a study on communication. And you can find that study on the internet. Unfortunately, it's been misinterpreted by a lot of people. He's, when you look at the numbers, it says when we communicate, 7% of what we communicate, people will say is the words that come out of your mouth. Then 55% would be visual, your body language, and then 38% of it will be the tone. And people will say that. But really, in the study that he did, he wanted to know, what do we respond to the most? Subtle different. Instead of just saying when we communicate, 7% is the words. Well, we've been talking a lot. So, I mean, we've been using way more words than our body language, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, you're talking to our daughter, right? And you feel like you're talking, the words are there, but what she has given more weight has been what? The tone in your voice. 38% of what people respond to when you communicate is the tone of your voice. You often hear people say it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Yeah. So just keep those numbers in mind. Again, 7% of what people respond to are the actual words that you say. 55% is body language. The look on my face, how I position my body, how I smile, do I grimace and that kind of stuff. And then 38% of that is the tone. If you do the math, so this is the geek side of me coming. If you do I'm sorry, I have to go there. If you do the math right, 38% and 55%, that is what, 93% of what we respond to is nonverbal.
Yes.
We can tell, we joke about it sometimes, we're driving and you look at a couple in the car and you see the one person is driving and then the other person turns this way in the mirror, looking outside. You can tell something just happened in that car, right? Some kind of ineffective communication was going on, or something was said that people didn't like. So anyway, so anything you value, you will nurture. I really like that. You mentioned love, you mentioned care. The question that I would ask is, do you value, right? Do you value the relationship enough to begin to put in the work?
Yes, that's the key there, because we can want to be involved in effective communication. We can want to have effective communication.